If you're thinking about paying off your debt by just, I don't know, shuffling it around, borrowing from your 401k, or doing one of those debt settlement things, honestly, just stop for a second. I need to tell you something that nobody else is going to tell you. Because these moves, they're not just bad financial decisions, they're they're relationship killers. They're the thing that's going to keep you up at 3 a.m. when you're 55 and you're just lying there wondering why you feel more trapped than when you started. And I know this because, honestly, I see it every single day. People think that they're getting smarter with their money when really, they're just moving deck chairs around on the Titanic, So I'm Jason, by the way. I retired early at 39. And before you ask, no, I didn't inherit money or get lucky with crypto or anything like that. I got out of the rat race because I actually figured out what works with debt and what just makes you feel productive while keeping you broke forever. So today, I want to talk to you about the worst ways to pay off debt. Because some of these approaches, they'll actually leave you in a worse spot than where you started. No joke. So here's what I'm going to share with you today. The 5 biggest payoff traps that smart people, I'm talking really smart people, fall into every single day. Plus, this one psychological mistake that keeps you stuck even when the math looks good. And at the end of this video, I'm going to share something that might sound crazy. Why giving money away while you're in debt might actually be the smartest financial move you'll ever make. And I know it sounds backwards, but stick with me. Okay, so the first trap is what I call the debt shuffle. And this one drives me crazy. Because I see people doing this thinking that they're being all strategic and stuff. You know what I'm talking about. This is when you take out a personal loan to pay off credit cards, or when you do a home equity line of credit to consolidate everything. You're moving balances around chasing interest rates like you're playing some kind of financial chess game or something. But here's the thing nobody tells you, and I mean nobody. You're not actually addressing why you went into debt in the first place. You're just, rearranging furniture in a house that's still on fire. I've literally seen people do debt consolidation 5 different times. Always the same type of person, same habits, just different loan paperwork each time. Because, and this is important, the interest rate was never your real problem. Your spending patterns were. Your financial boundaries were. The fact that you haven't figured out how to say no to yourself yet. That was the real problem. And so now you've got this shiny new loan that feels like progress. But you're still the same person who got into debt in the first place. Except now you've got fees that you didn't expect, terms you didn't read carefully, and usually you just freed up those credit cards to get maxed out again. Actually, you know what? The only exception that I'd consider is student loan consolidation. That's it. Everything else is just financial procrastination with extra steps. And I get it. Personal loans, they feel different, right? They feel more, official, more responsible. You walk into a bank, you'll fill out paperwork, they give you one big check, and you pay everything off. But think about what you just did. You took out another loan to pay off your loans. You've literally borrowed your way out of a borrowing problem. Like, when you say it out loud, it sounds crazy, right? And HELOCs? Oh man, this one really upsets me. You're taking the equity in your home, the one thing that's been building wealth for you while you sleep, and you're turning it into another monthly payment. You're literally stealing from your future self to pay for your past self's mistakes. Look, I get it. When you're drowning in payments and someone offers you a life raft, you don't ask too many questions. But that life raft, it's got holes in it. I know this guy, let's call him Mike, who thought that he was being smart. He had $45,000 in credit card debt, and his house had gone up in value. So he took out a HELOC for $50,000, paid everything off, and threw himself a little celebration dinner. 8 months later, he's got $20,000 back on those credit cards because he never changed his habits. Can you believe that? Now he's got the HELOC payment, the credit card payments, and his wife is looking at him like he's lost his mind. 2 years later, they had to sell that house. All that equity that he thought he was being clever with, gone. And the worst part, he told me he felt stupider than when he started because now he couldn't pretend that he didn't know better. If this is already hitting different than the usual financial advice that you hear, hit the subscribe button now. I don't do fluff here. I just share what actually worked to get me out of the rat race at 39 and what I see working for people who are serious about changing their financial life. Next up, there's borrowing from your 401k. And this one makes me physically uncomfortable, You're in debt, so your solution is to go into debt with yourself. I mean, you're robbing your 70-year-old self to pay for your 45-year-old self's credit card problems. And the fine print? Man, if you lose your job, which, let's be honest, is when you probably need that money most, you've got 90 days to pay it back. Or it becomes a withdrawal with penalties that'll make your head spin. You're unplugging your only long-term wealth building strategy to fix a short-term cash flow problem. It's like eating your seed corn because you're hungry today. So I knew this woman, Sarah. She was 47, had about $180,000 in her 401k, and felt pretty good about it, right? Then life happened. Her daughter needed help with college. She had some medical bills. Credit cards were maxed out. So she borrowed $30,000 from her 401k. The payment was manageable at first. She could handle it. Then the company got bought out. New owners, downsizing, and Sarah, gone. Suddenly, she's got 90 days to pay back 30 grand or face massive penalties and taxes. So now she's job hunting at 47 in a new economy, dealing with age discrimination and watching her retirement account get gutted by penalties. The last time we talked, she said something that still haunts me. She said, "I stole from my only version of myself that couldn't fight back. My 70-year-old self couldn't argue with me, couldn't tell me no, so I robbed her blind." Now, this next one's so common, I bet half of you have done it. And that's moving balances around, chasing 0% intro rates, playing the credit card dating game. But here's what actually happens. You move $5,000 from card A to card B because card B has a sweet 0% rate. You feel smart. You feel like you've hacked the system or something. 6 months later, card A has $3,000 on it again because you never addressed why you were using it in the first place. And now you've got debt on both cards, plus a balance transfer fee that you totally forgot about. Now, coming up, I'm going to tell you about the debt payoff method that most people get completely backwards, and why the psychological approach beats the mathematical one every single time. So here's where most people get it wrong. They try to pay off their highest interest rate debt first. It makes sense mathematically, right? Wrong. Mathematics doesn't change your behavior. Hope does. When you pay off the smallest debt first, even if it's just $400 medical bill, something happens in your brain. You get this hit of, holy crap, I actually did it. You've never paid anything off in full before, and suddenly you realize, hey, maybe I can actually do this. That $400 win gives you more motivation than saving 2% in interest ever will. I've watched people pay off $80,000 in debt using this method. Not because the math was perfect, but because they got addicted to the wins. They started believing that they were the kind of person who pays things off. The debt Avalanche tells you to be a spreadsheet. The debt Snowball helps you become a different person. Oh, and those debt settlement companies, they'll tell you to stop paying your bills. Let everything go to collections. Trash your credit score. Then they'll swoop in and negotiate for pennies on the dollar. And that sounds great until you realize that you can't get an apartment, you can't get a car loan, you can't qualify for anything for the next 7 years. These companies prey on desperate people. They make money when you're at your lowest point, and they'll leave you worse off than when you started. There's this woman, Jennifer, who got sucked into one of those debt settlement deals. She had about $60,000 in credit card debt after a divorce. And these people promised that they could get it down to 20 grand. So she stops paying everything, lets it all go to collections. Her credit score goes from, I think it was 680 to 480 in just 6 months. Can't get an apartment, has to move back in with her parents at age 41. The settlement company, they dragged their feet for 2 years. Took their fees first, of course. And when they finally settled, she'd saved maybe $15,000 in total. But the 7 years of destroyed credit cost her way more than that in higher insurance rates, deposits, and opportunities that she couldn't take because her credit was trashed. She told me, "I thought I was being smart. I thought I found the easy way out. Turns out the easy way out just led to a different kind of prison." Let me ask you something, and drop your answer in the comments because I read every single one. What's the hardest part about living below your means? Is it the social pressure, the FOMO, or something else entirely? I read all the comments and they help me come up with future video ideas. Alright, so here's mistake number 4. Not changing your lifestyle while you're paying off debt. You can't live the same life that got you into debt and expect different results. You can't keep the same subscriptions, the dinners out, the weekend shopping trips, and wonder why the debt never goes down. I'm talking scorched earth for 12 months. Food, shelter, utilities, transportation, insurance, childcare, everything else, gone. And I know what you're thinking, but Jason, I need to live a little. I can't be miserable. Here's the truth. You're already miserable. The debt is making you miserable. The stress is making you miserable. The feeling like you're never going to get ahead is making you miserable. Trust me, the temporary discomfort of living below your means, that's not miserable. That's progress. That's the price of freedom. Alright, here's the one thing that's going to shock you. Not giving while you're paying off debt. I know how this sounds. Jason, I'm broke. How can I give money away? But here's what I learned. The habits you build while you're broke are the habits that'll stick with you when you're not. If you can't be generous with $20, you won't be generous with $20,000. Giving changes you. It breaks your scarcity mindset that got you into debt in the first place. It reminds you that money is a tool, not your master. Even if it's just $10 a month to a local food bank. Even if it's buying coffee for the person behind you once in a while. It's not about the amount. It's about who you're becoming in the process. And that brings me to the most important point of this entire thing. The one thing that determines whether you'll be debt-free in 2 years or still struggling in 10. Here's what nobody wants to admit. The debt isn't your problem. You are. Not because you're dumb, not because you're lazy, but because you haven't changed the person who created the debt in the first place. You can shuffle debt around forever. You can consolidate and refinance and negotiate until you're blue in the face. But until you become the kind of person who doesn't go into debt, you're going to keep going into debt. And the fastest way to get out of debt isn't finding the perfect strategy. It's becoming a different person. Someone who pays things off. Someone who lives below their means. Someone who has boundaries with money. And those quick wins that I talked about earlier, that's how you rewire your brain. That's how you start seeing yourself as someone who wins with money instead of someone who struggles with money. Look, getting out of debt isn't just about the numbers. It's about who you're willing to become in the process. If this hit different than most financial advice you hear, I want you to subscribe. Not because I need the numbers, but because I need you to get this information. The stuff I share here, it's what actually worked. Not theory, not textbook advice, real strategies from someone who actually got out of the rat race. Thanks for watching, my friends. I'll see you next time.